Good morning, gearheads, and welcome to Speed City F1 on SiriusXM, your pre-race show for the Formula One Abu Dhabi Grand Prix, bright and early. This is John Massengale. I'm the gentleman driver of the team, if you will, but not to worry. I'm joined by the professionals. The man across the table from me here in the studio in Austin is one of the most recognizable voices of two- and four-wheel motorsports and former ESPN F1 pit reporter, Jonathan Green. Good morning, Jonathan.
Miss Macau this year.
Yeah.
I was doing Vegas, and that was just as mayhem as anything else could be. But quite an experience, I must say.
Yeah, Vegas was crazy, wasn't it?
It was, and a crazy success, actually.
Yeah.
I don't, it was so much anticipation that, what could go wrong, but, things did go wrong, but things did go right too. And I think it lived up to all expectations. And here we are, final race, just a week later.
I think that the manhole, the valve cover incident was quite overshadowed by the rest of the weekend.
I think so.
I think the race. I mean, I was just listening to a different podcast, and the checkered flag, et cetera. The people who do this have done this for decades and decades. Were like, maybe this is the best race of the year. Talking about Vegas.
Frederick Vasseur, actually, that was one of his quotes. He said it was the best race of the year, and that's the head of Ferrari.
Yeah. How prophetic was Toto Wolff when he just,
I know.
He went off on the press right after FP1. He's going, what are you, crazy? This is Thursday night. No one's even listening. No one's watching. No one's, paying any attention.
Yeah, it is like, it really is like, the first quarter of an NFL game and the lights don't turn on, or the Super Bowl.
It's like before the first quarter.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
it's like, and then, everybody complains. Come on. We got the lights back on. The game got going. Come on.
Well, it was a shame because the people that don't really follow Formula One, everybody was asking me that Monday, oh, what happened? All I saw was a lawsuit. And I was like, that's just an opportunistic lawyer trying to make some money.
It just shows you, though, the way social media the world we live in, that negativity is so quick to overshadow anything that's positive. There was so much going on and so many positive things about that weekend that, yes, there was a manhole. Okay. As if by magic. As if by magic.
Speaking of lawyers.
Aren't you on a ship? Didn't we put you on a ship to somewhere?
I was supposed to be. And then there was this unsettling experience going on in the Middle East, and the cruise was canceled, sadly.
Something's going on in the Middle East?
Yeah. Unfortunately, tragedy is going on in the Middle East. But, the cruise was canceled. And I felt badly about that, but
we feel badly for you. We have you though, so that's a good thing. How are you, Bob?
Sorry, I'm good. A little late. Kind of misjudged my my morning rituals before I got on here before the crack of dawn on the East Coast. But looks like we're going to have a great wind up to the 2023 season, so I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you missed nothing. We were just talking about the success and brilliance of Vegas and how most of the negativity was all about a manhole cover, which was kind of a little bit over the top.
Well,
really.
Yeah, it was. It was very unfortunate that the Ferrari and the Alpine got damaged and so on and so forth. But, having been through a million of these first-time events like yourself, there are problems. This was a big one. I'll have the distinction of being the guy in the public address system who told the fans they had to go home at 1:30 in the morning. And
you should have seen Bob's face when I smilingly said, Bob, you got to tell the audience to go home.
That's right.
I was Big B.
Right. No, that was poorly handled, I think. But again, first time event, these things happen. And as I heard you guys say, it rightly should not overshadow the achievement and what will be a spectacular event going forward.
Yeah. And, we say that it was poorly handled. And yes, I agree that it was. But I looked at a lot of the reasoning why they did that. And they were talking about people at the end of their shifts and safety and all those things. And I don't know all the details, but I suppose if those were legitimate, they either should have planned ahead or
Well,
something.
and let's face it, the town was on tenterhooks in terms of there had been a lot of talk of strikes with its hotel staff and so on and so forth. Hey, it's a huge disruption. I mean, it's a massive disruption to a city that doesn't sleep. So they wanted to know what it was all about. They were dubious, and yet I think they'll welcome it back and see the opportunity next year.
Yeah, I mean, you and I sat in that PA booth and watched those enormous crowds around the stages,
nuts,
where the DJs were performing and our colleagues were filling people in on what was going on. And yeah, they'll get together, they'll tweak it. You know, we saw a first time event at Circuit of the Americas a little over a decade ago, first time event at Miami 3 years ago almost now. It needs to be tweaked, and I'm sure it will be.
And if you remember, Coda had problems with parking. Coda had problems with food and vendors having all the, it took time, and it does take time, and you can't plan for everything.
Yeah, Coda was so focused on ingress and egress that they dropped the ball on some other things. They got that right, but
is that a wild bird?
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
I think I shot one of those once. I shot one of those.
They're delicious.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that story's behind us. We got another one.
Yeah, let's move on. Let's go to the Middle East.
Yes. We have a surprise on pole. We have Max Verstappen.
Who is this man you speak of?
Well, actually, a bit of a surprise. Charles Leclerc was surprised to be on the front row.
Is it me, or are they getting end of season crazy mad, where like Marco is betting against his own driver and team now? Like, come on, guys,
wasn't it?
I know.
500 euros too wasn't just nothing.
No, and he's tight too. He's an Austrian. He doesn't mess about.
Yeah,
hard to imagine Red Bull being so bored they bet against their own driver.
Yeah.
So, well, I've checked in with our buddy Statman Sean Kelly this morning, who reminds us that we have a four-way battle over fourth and drivers' championship. Sainz, Alonso, Norris, Leclerc covered by 12 points.
Yep.
4 points separating Mercedes and Ferrari for second in the constructors' championship and all the money at stake. McLaren and Aston over fourth place in the constructors, and a four-way battle over seventh through 10th. So there's a lot to be decided, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, you've got Mercedes in P4 with Russell and Ferrari in P2 with Leclerc. So we've got to focus on that. That's a huge thing to focus on, given that both Hamilton and Sainz have, two different problems. One, uncompetitive. The other, again, dinged, Mr. Sainz.
Yeah. Yeah, boy. Carlos, what is going on? I'm surprised Ferrari has enough parts left over here at the end of the season to rebuild another race car.
I know.
Well, we are talking Ferrari, but yes, I agree with you. If anybody's going to have parts, it's going to be Ferrari or Mercedes.
Yeah.
Well, let's hear from some of the drivers. In fact, let's start with our pole man, Max Verstappen.
Good team effort, I guess, after FP3 as well. A lot of guys, just trying to find improvements, and then. The car was set up in a better direction for me to push more and feel better in it.
Does that give you confidence then tomorrow you'll be able to hold off the Ferraris, hold off the McLarens and really push for the win?
Yeah, I haven't done any long runs, so it's a bit difficult to say at the moment, but normally from what I've felt so far, I have had the best balance all weekend, so that normally then helps also for the long run.
How can he say anything's difficult at this point? He's about to win his 19th. That's even mind-blowing to say, his 19th race. I mean, how many seasons have we not even had 19 races?
I know.
Well, you got to admire his Verstappen's, that is his honesty. He said, look, the car wasn't great when we started, and we made it great. And, even at our lofty performance level, we still have things to do. You got to check all the boxes, or these guys are going to get us. Watching qualifying, God, at one point, Verstappen put in a lap that was 0.7 of a second quicker than anybody. But then the McLarens closed in and got within a couple of tenths of him. So, I think he recognizes the wolves are at the door, and they've got to keep up their performance level, or he's going to get passed.
I think that's what's made this season as historic. I think that's the word to use, because I was listening to Checkered Flag, BBC's Checkered Flag, and they were saying, boring or historic. And the truth is, it has been. Whether if you
Both.
it's been. No, I don't think it. Well, it hasn't, because that is the essence of Formula One. It's not boring when you're winning, and it wasn't boring. We hark back to Prost Senna. We hark back to the McLaren 15 out of 16. These are moments in history. Schumacher, there was a time when Schumacher just absolutely ruled the roost. And before Ferrari went on that run, they hadn't won in 27 years. And, the championship. So to see what they're doing and to see how competitive, I think that was where my footnote was going to go, which is, it's not like this car, like the Brawn of 2008, found something that nobody else had figured out and totally trounced everybody with a diffuser. This is a highly competitive series where any one of today, of Sainz, Leclerc, McLaren, Lando, Piastri, could all win this race competitively. And yes, Red Bull keep beating them, but that's because they're on their game.
Yeah. It's hard to argue with that. And yes, I completely agree. I'm the one who's been arguing all year. Yes, you know that Max is probably going to win a race, but everything behind that has been fantastically competitive and fun to watch. And you don't know who's going to be right behind them. So yeah. Completely.
Yeah, it's all part of the game. When we say it time and time again, this is not just an athletic endeavor. It's a technology war. It's a garage war as much as everything else. You find out where you are when you go out to race the first time. If you're behind, you have to catch up. Nobody's going to help you. They're not going to change the rules. They're not going to slow down the guys who are up ahead. You've got to get it done. And as we've said over and over again, we all want to say we witnessed the McLarens of 1988 and the Schumacher of the decade of the aughts.
Yep.
Yeah. And we're going to want to say, hey, kids, gather around. Let me tell you about this guy, Max Verstappen, back in 2023.
And the RB19. I mean, that car is going to go down in history. That was the other thing. It's bulletproof.
I wrote that down in my notes. I was like, reliability is almost a non-issue at all for Red Bull.
Yeah.
And actually quite up and down the grid. And we've had a little bit, but nothing like
you remember that Reddit thing that came out when all the damage was out, this sort of the constructors, the destruction championship.
Yeah.
I think it was last year, and Schumacher was at the top of it for wrecking cars. But when you look actually at the bottom of it's far more telling, is that Verstappen had zero problems with his car.
That is insane. Well, let's hear from the man that's on the front row with Max Verstappen. Let's hear from Charles Leclerc.
I'm very surprised. I am very surprised because I didn't really not expect to be on the front row for tomorrow. We've had a very difficult FP3. FP2 was okay. We were on top of the timesheet, but for me that didn't mean anything. It was only one lap, and so in Q1, Q2 we struggled a lot. We put 2 new sets of soft to get out of Q1, which we did by a fine margin. And Q2 again it was quite tight, and then Q3 I just went all in, and it seems to have worked. So really happy to be starting second tomorrow.
How do you feel about your prospects of winning tomorrow? This hasn't been the strongest weekend so far for Red Bull. I know the McLarens look quick as well, and you guys in patches have looked good as well.
Yeah, I mean the Red Bull will be quick tomorrow, I'm sure. The McLaren will be very strong tomorrow, I'm sure. Let's see. I don't really know what to expect. I just hope we can beat Mercedes in the constructors, and that's all that matters to me.
I think that says it all. His focus is laser on what the job at hand is. It's not about winning races. It's about, and I think we might see some interesting move stroke strategy because of that. That's really, the race is immaterial at this point for them.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, and that was a great description from Leclerc about the difference between qualifying and the race. Okay, we barely got out of Q1. We had to use another set of tires. Q2 was very tight. Q3 was a scramble, and I made it to the front row, and so I feel lucky. But the race is going to be a whole different animal.
All right, you might hear some chatter in the background. Joining us with his microphone, his inexhaustible knowledge, and sharp elbows, ready to get us the interviews from Abu Dhabi, the man who seems impervious to jet lag, Chris Medland. Good evening, Chris. How are you, buddy?
I'm very well. I'm going to accuse you of jet lag, though, John, because Casey just had to bail me out. Nobody gave me the link. I couldn't join the show.
You're not the only one. You know, I think he's giving us a lesson at the end of the season.
Wait,
John,
can I get in on
Green,
that? That was my
messaged you
excuse
as well.
too. I didn't get the link.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
Oh, you messaged me
I
too.
messaged both of you, and you were such pros, focused on the show, that you didn't check your phones. So,
Well,
I'm sorry I'm late.
to be
everyone, but
honest-
I have brought an interview. I have brought
Okay.
content, and I don't know if it's ready, but it
It
should
is.
have been fired over to Casey. And it was a young man by the name of Patricio O'Ward.
Ah,
who's
yes.
here in the paddock.
McLaren's newest official reserve driver.
Yes.
Exactly. Yeah.
All right.
And he gave me a good chunk of time actually. So I
Well,
don't know when we want to
you know
hear
what?
from him, but yeah.
Let's hear from Paddle right after these messages. You're listening to Speed City F1. Back after a quick break.
And then the world.
Yeah,
stopped
thanks,
on its axis.
Chris. I thought we were going to the interview, but Casey saved me because he looked at the clock and I hadn't looked at it yet. It's time for a break.
Yeah.
Oh,
we're-
good. Yeah.
we're
So I started teeing it up, and then I was like, oh, maybe I've done that at a bad time. So
Well, I
sorry.
thought you were. I was good to go, but then I looked after. I was like, "What are you waiting on, Casey?" He's like, it's time for a break."
commercial.
Hold on, mate.
It takes a
Are
village.
we on YouTube? I've got some new YouTube.
Yep, we
folks
are.
who
We
promised
are.
They'd tune in this
It's kind of
morning.
quiet out
Okay,
there
in that
this
case-
morning at 5 in the morning.
Go, Bob.
Sorry, everybody.
Go ahead. What do you got?
Nothing. Just want to know people were listening.
Oh, okay. Yes. YouTube is lit up. It looks like it's TW and a few other lurkers.
I have to say,
Yeah.
and we can get to this, and Chris can allude to it. But we are very much in a situation like last week at Vegas, where the like you heard Leclerc saying, long runs. You know, Verstappen saying no long runs. They've had a very jaunty, disjointed run at this Grand Prix, which is unusual. They know the data because they've been here a bunch of times, and they know the track.
Not quite like Vegas.
It's
in
not
that
in
respect.
that respect, but in the respect of how much time on track and how much going through their programs, it's been disjointed, and therefore we may see a surprise.
TW says first laps
And I
could
will
be
say
crazy.
this,
Chuck and Georgie will both be aggressive to the front.
Chuck and Georgie.
Yep.
Well,
And
Georgie's
I'll
already
apologize
being
in
aggressive.
advance.
Sorry,
When
go
we get
ahead.
down to the when we get down to the starting grid, I apologize in advance because I wrote it last night on the plane back from the Rockies with my friend Bourbon in the next seat. So, yeah. So we hope it'll all work out.
Good guess, huh?
Yeah. How did you know?
Been there, done that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Georgie's being racy already because Max Verstappen and George Russell have just gone side by side through turn 9, that long, fast left-hander that, like the new one, that's only a few years old. And as they were approaching it,
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
CrowdStrike presents Driven in 60 as the official cybersecurity partner of the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team. CrowdStrike protects against cyber threats so the team can focus on what matters, their next win. The revolutionary cloud-native unified CrowdStrike Falcon platform harnesses the speed and the power of the cloud to protect and defend organizations of all sizes against increasingly complex threats, stopping breaches before they happen. Because on and off the track, the stakes couldn't be higher. A split second can make the difference between victory and defeat. When every second counts, protection shouldn't slow you down. It should fuel your momentum. CrowdStrike, protection at every turn. To learn more and to try CrowdStrike Falcon free today, visit crowdstrike.com/XM. All right, Mr. Medland, you were just talking about this interview you caught up. Was this just a few minutes with Pato O'Ward?
Lost him.
Pato was late to
You're-
me. But yeah, it was just before we went live on air. I managed to grab him.
All right, well, let's hear from Pat O'Ward now.
Pato, thanks very much for joining us here on Speed City and SiriusXM ahead of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Got a smile on your face. You're excited to go watch some racing today?
Yes, I'm excited to get back into the car on Tuesday. And it's always a joy to see you around the paddock.
Likewise, when you come and visit us every now and then, making the long trip over. But you're also here with some big news. An official reserve driver for the McLaren Formula One team. How does that feel?
No, it's been, I don't want to say a long time coming, but I think it's a step in the right direction of where I want to be in a few years. And just keep on the work that's been the journey, I guess, the last couple of years here in the Formula One side. So just keep on improving and all of that, and just making myself more familiar with everything, because it is such a different thing to IndyCar.
Well, you did get an experience in the car on Friday as well in FP1. How was that?
That was good. I mean, we were, my job in FP1 was to make Lando's FP2 as smooth as possible, and that is, doing the dirty work, I guess we can call it. The rake scans and the downforce levels and front wing and just all those little things that do add up to quite a bit of laps to get into the window. So I feel grateful, and it feels nice to be part of what this weekend's result is going to be. And then I'm going to have my go to properly wring its neck on Tuesday.
Do you feel more comfortable each time you get in the car and you come and work with the team, or because there's quite big gaps between it, does it take you a little while to get up to speed?
Absolutely. No, I feel very, very comfortable. Being in the car now is what feels the most comfortable, I have to say. I mean, I think what is still a work in progress, and just trying to understand how it all kind of works in a way, is outside of the car. But being inside the car now is actually what feels like home, and then just still getting used to, the rules in the racing here versus IndyCar is completely different. So a good strategy in IndyCar is not a good strategy in F1, and then vice versa. And then just the way that you have to describe things when describing the car, because you can't just change the suspension on the car like you can in IndyCar. So they're very different details that you need to express.
Well, I guess you get to do a lot of that on Tuesday with a whole day of testing, and you've hinted at it a few times already in this interview. How excited are you to get a full day of basically giving it everything rather than having to worry about, keep the car safe for Lando?
Nah, super pumped, It's the test days is really the best chance to get to know a car and to keep developing yourself, because we're going to have a bunch of tires, and we'll have race runs, we'll have performance runs, we'll have low fuel, high fuel. In FP1, we did more of a mid fuel and then high fuel. I didn't really get to feel what the car is capable of in a performance run, so I'm excited for that.
You also mentioned to me a bit ago off mic about how your neck used to give you a lot of trouble in these F1 cars. How many tests did it take for you to finally crack it that your neck will hold up?
For it to hold up for a full test day, it took 3 tests. And that is with a lot of work in between tests. I think people don't realize how insane the G's that you pull in these cars are. And if your body is not used to it, it does take a while. No matter how much you train it, it's not just training the neck, but you need to make your back stronger, you need to make your traps stronger. So it's a combination of just big areas that aren't necessarily just the neck that you need to make sure that are in tip-top shape in order for you to help yourself and last for a full test day. And a full test day is like almost 3 race distances, or at least 2 race distances. So it's more than what you'll use it in a day in a Formula One weekend, but it's definitely the best preparation that you can get.
Well, I think you did, 21 laps on Friday in FP1, and did you feel it after that?
I felt some of my traps, but I think that was mostly because of the seat belts. So no, my neck's been a champ.
Well, you mentioned though how having now been a part of this weekend and maybe the end result of this weekend, obviously the team going for 4th in the Constructors' Championship. How do you think today's going to play out?
Well, hopefully 2 podiums. 2 podiums will be fantastic to end the season. I think our race pace is going to be if it's stronger than our qualifying pace, I think that'd be insane news because that would mean we'd be 1-2. So I'm excited to see the race. I think it'll be very good.
That was a fascinating discussion, Chris. That was great talking about the neck and actually the trap muscles. I hadn't thought about that. That's the muscles that go down starting your neck and go down.
Yeah.
You always think of just the neck, right?
Yeah.
But it's really a lot more to it. That's fascinating.
Yeah, and I find him a really interesting, cerebral kind of guy. He's very honest. He's almost, sometimes too honest. Like I was watching him earlier in the weekend doing some TV work. And
slagging off Indy?
Not really, but he was waxing rhapsodic about just how amazing Formula One was in comparison to Indy as a car. And there's nothing wrong with that. He's a test driver. He's and I really do. I'm looking forward to what his Tuesday is Pato Ward Day for me because I really do think he's out to prove himself. We saw it at Sonoma. His joy of driving an old Formula One car from Hamilton. He said he grew up, idolizing Hamilton. I really do think his ambition is Formula One. And after all the Palou and
sounds like it,
Ward and the stuff that McLaren have been through with Ganassi in the last couple of years, and all of that, sort of strangeness has now folded out to Pato being the guy.
And the fact that he's going to do 3 race distances in a test, looking for specific things, trying hard, and this is not the kind of track where you go to Monza or somewhere where you have long straightaways where you could work your neck muscles and relax your hands and so forth. This is a twisty place in Abu Dhabi, and it's going to be a long day's work. It's fascinating stuff.
And he's up against the likes of Ollie Behrman and Drogovic and all these other guys who are desperate.
Right.
I mean, Drogovic is a great example, desperate to get that seat somewhere. And he says, that's where I want to be. But when you look at the McLaren lineup and how young it is, where do you fit in? So what engine are they using and what potential will there be for a driver within?
I see the glint in your
the glint
eye.
in my eye. Well, because we've been talking about Stoffel Van Dorn, we've been talking about Mercedes drivers, and where does it lead potentially for Pato?
Hey, Chris, would you agree that it's clearly this is Pato's goal after sitting with him to be in Formula One?
Yeah, absolutely. There was actually a bit more to that chat, I'll admit, but obviously limited on time in the build-up, and I'm trying to keep it kind of on the stuff that's been more immediate. But further down the line, we did have a chat, which will play out maybe in one of the midweek shows.
Yeah.
That was very much, that's where he wants to get to. He's got things he wants to achieve in IndyCar, that he wants to tick off. But when he's done that, he then, sees himself as capable of really mixing it with everyone here in Formula One, and that's where he wants to get to. So that is his goal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're. Well, I was just going to say, you're really right, Jonathan, to say this is not a comparison with IndyCar. That's like asking, a guy who flies with the Blue Angels, do you want to be an astronaut or something? Rob, that may not be a good analogy, but it's true. I mean, IndyCar is one animal and can be spectacular in its own way. But Formula One is something else. And as Al Unser Jr. once described it years ago, he said, this is the space shuttle of motor racing. And, that's simply the way it is.
I know, and I can get caught up in some of that Twitter stuff because people just, you see people, if it's anybody that's related to IndyCar, talks about Formula One, they they come in and trash them. It's like, why? It's we should love them both. I don't even get it sometimes. It just seems over the top.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right.
You guys on that, because they've got to be different. If they're not different, then only one of them would survive.
Yeah.
So you need to keep them separate and have their unique or their USPs. And where they sit right now, I think pretty damn good on that front. But yes, I think to maybe the less trained eye, they just see a single seat racing car, assume they're all the same.
Yeah.
And therefore say, well, that one's slower or that one doesn't go to these places. And like say, talk them down. But I think they're both actually in pretty good places. And I know that Pato's quite vocal about it, but IndyCar is working hard, isn't it, to kind of help ride the wave of interest that I think the F1 boom has brought to motorsport in general.
Yeah, I think go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, I think the competition is good. It's good for this, good for IndyCar to go, well, wait a minute, we need to be doing something too to raise our profile.
Yeah, and the attitude is that all boats rise. You know, I really do think that Formula One has elevated the interest in motorsport. And you know what? I talk to my Trans Am drivers, and they say that Drive to Survive has made people more interested in what they do. And I know I'm not trying to even compare Trans Am, but you know, it's the oldest road racing series in America. They're not well known Trans Am drivers, but they are very good. A lot of them, some of them. And I just want to, you know, it's amazing how if they're saying that, then that trickles down all the way down to Formula 4 in America.
Well, hey, we've got a couple of clips. Tell you what, let's get a quick break in. When we come back, we're going to hear from the McLaren drivers after hearing from Pato O'Ward. You're listening to Speed City. We'll be back after these messages. All right, let's see what's going on the YouTube. Andy P's out there, TW's out there. Andy P says, morning, talk about the dawn's early light. Man, Andy, I did not recover from Vegas until Saturday morning. Friday night into Saturday morning, I slept for the first time in a normal fashion. And then we are getting up. I had to take my daughter to the airport at 5 in the morning.
I know, and you know, when I got you out on bail, I thought you didn't look too bad.
Yeah, but I had a good freaking time.
Oh, sorry. Yeah. I misspoke.
Casey, were you on air when you said that? Because Casey said, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
Stays in Vegas.
Yes. None of us had any. I did not gamble one
Me
nickel.
neither. I tried.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
I was going to put a flutter on.
You were going to put, what, $100 on
album?
Checo?
No, I was going to put. I think I was going to put. There was. I mean,
because
what
you
I
said
loved
Checo
was the betting.
like, you know, really good, really high return.
Yeah. There was some good bets. You could bet on the yellow on the safety car coming out. I was like, it's not a good bet, and it wasn't.
The CrowdStrike safety car.
How about this? We must talk about the Hail Mary that could be the saving grace of not saving grace of Hulkenberg, but Hulkenberg is in a position to throw the Hail Mary today and beat Alfa Romeo.
Yeah,
4 points is all he needs.
Yeah. How long we got on break? I might grab Mario Isola when we come out.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Please do. How long we got, Casey? 30 seconds, Chris.
Perfect.
Can Chris not hear you?
No, for some reason.
Yeah, you can.
I've got a lot of bass bouncing at the moment, so
that's fine. That's fine. You should know. I think I should know that after 22 races, right?
You think, yeah.
I sometimes can hear it. Sometimes I get him.
Okay, well, I feel better then. Here we go.
Hello to everyone. This is Gunther Steiner. This is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, welcome back. Chris, are you ready with Mario Isola?
I am stood right by him right now, but he's currently speaking to Carlos Sainz Sr., so I'm just letting that play out. I'm trying to work out what language that was.
He's trying to get tires
well,
for his
hold
car.
on. Wait.
Mario, what language do you speak to Carlos in? Is it Spanish, Italian, English?
Italian. Carlos speaks very well.
There we go. So we learned something there. But Mario, I want to talk about strategies today because obviously FP1 and FP3 not really representative here. FP2 a lot of red flags, partly due to that guy's son having a crash. So what have you been able to learn, and what do you think the main strategies are going to be today?
Yeah, you're right, but it's also true that we have the same compounds we had last year, so they can rely also on data from last year. Medium hard is the quickest on paper. Medium hard again is more or less the same time, total race time. Most of the teams decided to keep 2 sets of hard in their allocation. That's a clear indication that the hard is the race compound. The soft, difficult to say, not probably the favorite race tire, but it can be something different for drivers starting from the back or for the last stint.
I was going to say, I think I've seen on the graphic that it's like, the first or last stint for that. What about 2 sets of mediums being used? I think only Alfa Romeo have that, but is it usable?
Absolutely, but the only team with 2 sets is Alfa Romeo.
And they're starting a long way back.
Yeah.
But final race of the season, how pleased are you with how, I guess, the tyres have have shown up and given us a bit of a show here, because your target really was tyres that didn't overheat too much so drivers can keep pushing and attacking each other.
Yeah, our target was at the beginning to reduce the understeer, you remember from last year. Now we have to work at the overheating because due to the development of the cars, now we are back to a situation where we have some overheating that was not really there last year. As usual, we have to follow with the tires the development of the car. It's not always easy because these guys are developing the cars as much as they can, always quicker, always different, stressing for the front, the rear, and we need to understand in advance what is going to happen and react in advance, because then we have to freeze the tire for 1 year.
Yeah, and you get to test on Tuesday, don't we? So we'll find out some more then.
Yeah, it's more for the teams to understand better the tires. They have the opportunity to fit additional sensor and collect data that they have to share with us. So also interesting for us.
Okay, well then. So it's not the end of track running this weekend, but final race. So we're looking forward to it. Thanks for your time, Mario.
Thank you very much.
Well, Chris, you were asking him about which language he speaks to the drivers in, and this is a perfect segue into our sponsor for today, Rosetta Stone. To the grid, F1 aficionados, fellow F1 fans, as we race through over 30 countries, from the historic tracks in Italy to the speedy straits of Japan, F1 is as global as it gets. Ever wish you could chat with the locals during the Spanish Grand Prix or truly grasp the team radio in Italy's Monza? Dive into the vibrant, multilingual world of Formula One with Rosetta Stone, your co-driver in language learning. With Rosetta Stone, you're not just on the track, you're in the race. No pit stops, no renewals. Move from rookie phrases to pole position conversations, immersing deeper in every race. Rosetta Stone offers a pit lane of 25 languages, guiding at your pace. And once you're on the grid, it's a lifetime ticket, no strings attached. Gear up for the next Grand Prix circuit. For a limited lap, get 50% off Rosetta Stone's lifetime membership. Full throttle your language journey at rosettastone.com/SXM. That's rosettastone.com/SXM for that 50% off. All right. Yeah, Chris, that was interesting. Mario Isola always has the latest scoop on the tires. Yeah, Jonathan?
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting how he basically, for a change, kind of flipped it and said, we're trying to keep up with the development of the cars. Never mind, at this point in the year,
right.
Whatever they brought or were thinking about would be perfect for Abu Dhabi may not be so. And like he said, a few overheatings, some problems, etc. Because obviously they get on top of it as the season goes on. So it's a moving target too to keep up with the teams.
Doors over there.
Yeah,
and it's important to note, and people trash Pirelli from time to time. Oh, these tires, they suck, they're trash, and so on. Pirelli was given a brief, a mission statement, create this tire. And then, as you heard Mario Isola say, we have to freeze that tire. We have to freeze the formula for that tire, if you will. And yet the cars continue to develop. So, the Formula One teams may develop their cars right out of the window that a particular tire was developed for. And then you've got, all sorts of new issues and questions to be answered. So, I credit Pirelli. I think they've done a fabulous job. They're in series all over the world. And this is probably the time to point out that whose idea was it to have the MotoGP finale and the Formula One finale at the same time? Come on, people.
I know.
Hey,
not good.
I've only got one TV.
Yeah, and I always make this footnote, and you've heard it before, but Pirelli can make a tire that can go as long as you want. In other words, just because we get 12 good optimal laps of a soft tire does not mean that there's something wrong with those tires. No, it was like you say, it was a window that was created both for competitiveness and to get some strategy involved in the racing. So Pirelli, just are going to that remit, giving everybody three choices and saying, have at it.
And they're fulfilling the RFP, as it were. Yeah. All right. Hey, Chris, if you don't have somebody...
Yeah, if I can just jump in, guys, before you do. I'm walking with Chris Hemsworth here. Just want to say, Chris, what brings you to the Formula One grid this weekend, apart from obviously the race? Who are you here with?
I'm here with my family, my parents, my brothers, my kids are here somewhere. Yeah, mate, it's incredible. Always an incredible experience and a lot of fun.
Right, we get one in there because others have jumped in on him at the same time.
I marvel at you sometimes.
So that was. We got one question in, didn't we?
Yeah.
Grab that hammer and
I can see you. You're on TV. I can see you talking to Mr. Hemsworth.
Oh, that's cool.
That's pretty cool.
Let's go for an old tradition. I've just been biffed out of the way by Martin Brundle, Christian.
Yeah, Brundle. Yeah,
Chris
Brundle's
Hemsworth
trying to get in your
is who
way.
people want to speak to, but I've got Christian Horner here, who is going for
Overrated.
which one? Chris Hemsworth or Martin Brundle?
Martin.
Don't tell my wife that. But Christian, you're going for your 21st race victory of the season. Max going for his 19th. How special has this year felt? And are you going to be glad to see the back of it, or are you going to miss winning all the time?
We'd like to do another 6 races. I don't think the seasons are long enough based on the year that we've had. But no, I mean, in all seriousness, it's been amazing. Whatever happens today, to have won 20 Grand Prix is something we could have never have dreamt about. So, immense for the team, immense for Max. And let's hope we can have a great race to sign the year off on.
I guess, is your excitement going to be with Checo today? Because, I mean, Mercedes and Ferrari are surely watching each other, and Max could just disappear into the distance.
Well, they're all racing drivers, aren't they? So they're all going to be pushing hard. So, let's hope we can get a good start and stay out of trouble and get into the race.
Can you enjoy this one a bit more, though? There's no pressure, last one.
They're all busy races, so and they're all the same, but there's slightly less pressure than there was here 2 years ago.
Yeah, certainly that. Well, good luck today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Nice job, Chris, getting all the Chris's.
Hemsworth's smart, isn't he?
Yes.
Everybody and his mother was at Vegas. Hemsworth, he's on his own out there. He's having
Chris,
a great time.
We were watching on TV. Either Hemsworth is extremely tall or you're not as tall as him. One of the two.
Well, I'm definitely not as tall as him. He is extremely tall. It made him easy to
he's a big
find.
guy.
Yeah, it was easy for me to get to him. And it also meant that people park for him because they see him coming. Whereas I was just looking at Sergio Aguero, the Argentinian footballer, is just doing an interview. And you can barely see him. You see cameras pointed at him, and you have to look around to work out who it is being interviewed because he's much shorter. So sometimes it helps you get a tall celebrity. But so sorry to jump across on a couple of things there. But yeah, it was time for all the Chris's.
And Will.i.am,
That's okay.
he's everywhere. He was at Vegas last week.
Yeah.
They haven't done an album in a while.
That's probably it.
Yeah, the celebrities are out in force. I would imagine the Vegas, the spectacle that it was is probably driving a lot of this right now.
Good point.
Think about it.
Well, Chris was saying that he'd never seen Abu Dhabi as busy as it was this weekend.
All right.
I will admit, I have a certain amount of envy when I see all these obvious Westerners sitting in the grandstands in places like Abu Dhabi and, pick a place, some exotic location, Saudi Arabia, what have you. And I think, well, shoot, how hard can it be to go there then?
Speaking of tall, Martin Brundle is interviewing this girl. I don't know how tall she is, but she's towering over Brundle. But that's Maria Sharapova.
Yeah.
Okay. No wonder.
Tennis player. They're all tall.
Yeah. She's an athlete, all right.
Yeah, she looks like it. Hey, Chris, we do have those. I wanted to let everybody hear from Lando Norris. If unless you think it's a not a good time that you might grab somebody.
I think it's probably a pretty good time, actually, for you to do that. It's all got a bit tight here, and it's nearly national anthem time, at which point I'll try and grab some drivers afterwards.
Okay, well, let's go ahead and hear because Lando was not happy with his qualifying. So let's hear from Lando Norris.
No, terrible. I should be, I don't care where I should be. I made a mistake and ruined my day.
How good did the car feel up until that point?
Great. Yeah, it was really good.
And what do you think you can fight back tomorrow in tomorrow's Grand Prix?
I don't know. I just hope I can fight back. The car's easily quick enough. So, another Saturday ruined.
Interesting.
Another Saturday ruined.
I know.
Wow.
He's down, and he looks as if he's been training at Dirtfish the way he caught that car. Because it was rally.
Amazing.
It was rally-esque. It was completely sideways, but it did ruin his lap at speed. Yeah, it was a brilliant catch, but for the second weekend in a row, he's not a happy man, is he?
No.
He's fifth on the grid.
I know.
He's on the inside of row 3. It's not like, hey, go talk to Carlos Sainz if you want to talk to somebody who's not happy with where he's starting. But fifth, come on, Lando, give yourself a break.
Yeah, but it's Piastri that's ahead of him. That's why.
Setting. The stage is set for our grand.
And Lando said actually that he thinks he might get more position.
Yeah, I think
he felt he
was up, wasn't
close enough. Yeah, he felt it was close enough that if he just put it all together at the very end, he could have started pole. So I
tell you what,
where that anger comes from.
Yeah, I'm sure he desperately wants to avoid that British phrase that is so perfect. He doesn't want to be known as the nearly man.
Yes.
The guy who gets so close, they know he's got a good car, but he's not getting the ultimate brass ring, and I'm sure it eats at him.
Yeah,
I feel for the guy.
Yeah, and he's a study of Formula One. He knows how quickly a teammate can get on top of you. And Piastri is in the zone. There's no question that he's got a rival and a half in Piastri. And I agree with a lot of people who say that combination of he and Piastri could be one of the strongest, which is why I thought of Pato and his ambition, thinking, where do you fit in, buddy? You might be brilliant if you're Pato, but my gosh, how are you going to stop those two?
Yeah, we all know how things can shuffle, though, over the next, year or so. So, yes. All right, well, let's go ahead and let's get our last break in. And when we come back, we'll be just 15 minutes from the final race of the season. Back after these messages. Yeah, Maria Sharapova.
Look at Hemsworth's hugging Hamilton.
Nicely done there, because I thought we might end up on a break when the drivers left otherwise, so I thought I'd try.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, good.
By the way, we saw you on TV, Brundle trying to push you out the way. It was pretty funny. You should have a word with his producer. It's not on.
Well, on the ground here, that's another guy called Tommy. But it's the fact that he's giving the answer to me still, and he's going, Martin Brundle, Sky Sports F1. I haven't finished talking.
Yeah, I know. It's...
Well, everybody knows Martin Brundle follows Chris Medland around to get his
it's true. And by the way,
widely known.
Yeah, and it's not like Brundle won a chance to get in a race a Formula One car, is it?
Hey, David Lawrence on YouTube says, awesome job, Chris, with the interviews. Paul Bryan says, good early morning, all caps. Geez, one week at midnight, next week at 6 a.m., you're turning us into race zombies.
Yeah.
Who are more time short than the Gracie Burnett.
Yeah, if you've done the whole 23 races, you truly are. We should have a badge that we can send.
Yeah, we should. Yeah, a sticker we can send out.
Yeah.
That's true.
I did the 2023 season.
There you go. Live.
Yes, live.
Andy P says McLaren was still best in Sector 3 all weekend, too. Yeah.
I think it's going to be interesting. I really do. I think there's going to be some surprises. I think this is going to be a good race. And there is an Etihad fighter jet just about to fly over with a bunch of other fighter jets.
Oh, they bring in, usually they fly one of those gigantic double-decker A380s.
I think it's a 737, but it's beautiful. It's a lovely,
yeah, with the fighters underneath it. Wow, that is very cool.
Yeah.
It's a sustainable fly pass, in line with Formula One's commitment to their net zero. All right, here we go.
Yeah,
here we go.
Finished in the top 6.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
The Speed City F1 pre-race show on SiriusXM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Stop today's most sophisticated cyber attacks at the office, the racetrack, and everywhere in between. Learn more at crowdstrike.com/XM. Man, Chris, we were watching on television. It is still crazy out there.
Yeah, it really is. I'm trying to find a way of ducking and diving my way through without getting in the way of cameras and things at the moment. Charles Leclerc just warming up next to me, doing some back stretches and neck stretches for this trainer. But we just actually had a moment of appreciation for Franz Tost. Obviously, it's his final race in charge of the AlphaTauri team before he then will retire. And it was a really nice moment where it was like an announcement to all of the crowd that, show your appreciation for him after that happened. So that was a cool moment because he's been part of that team for decades.
Yeah. Chris, it looks like there's about 10 people out there with Sky microphones. What is going on? They're ganging up on you.
They have 80 people on site.
Yeah, you get Sky Italy, you get Sky Germany, and you get Sky UK, and they're all branded the same, but they're talking to different channels. So it's always quite an interesting one when you're fighting with all the cameras. Mainly because they can pinch me. You can get the reporter on one side, and you get the camera on the other.
Hey, Chris, a question. We talked about it on our qualifying show yesterday that Franz Tost, nobody's going to miss him more than Yuki Tsunoda. They seem to have developed a personal relationship. Tsunoda has, I think, come good in large part because Franz Tost sort of took charge of the kid. What are your thoughts about that as Tost heads for the sunset?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yuki's actually wearing a special tribute helmet as well. So he's got a very cool like Japanese leaf design. But on the top, he's got a picture of him and Franz having a cuddle, and it says "Servus Franz." So thank you, Franz, in German. So yeah, really nice little touch. So that's on the top of the lid. You'll see that on the onboard camera if anyone's watching and gets an onboard shot of Yuki. So and Yuki's in the place to do something special today. I'm just walking past Alex Albon's Williams, which is not in a position to score points right now, quite a long way back. Whereas Yuki's starting sixth. Basically, if the positions were to end as they've qualified, Ferrari would move ahead of Mercedes for second place, and AlphaTauri would move ahead of Williams for seventh, and Haas would move up to ninth ahead of Alfa Romeo. Do I see all that coming together? Admittedly, no, I don't. But that's kind of where we're sitting at the moment with the starting positions. So, yeah, stuff needs to change to stop that.
All right. Well, speaking of starting positions, Mr. Varsha has the grid hot and ready, fresh off the presses, ready for us. Mr. Varsha?
And it may even be right. So let's get started here. Final grid of the year. Row one, Max Verstappen and Red Bull on pole, trying to put a cherry on top of one of the most dominant Grand Prix seasons since Jim Clark. 32nd career pole for Max, tying Il Leone, Nigel Mansell on the all-time list. It's also Max's fourth straight here at Abu Dhabi. Next to him, Charles Leclerc in the first of the Ferraris, fifth straight front row start for the Monegasque as he and Verstappen line up 1-2 for the final three races of the season. And don't forget that battle for second that Chris just mentioned in the constructors. Row two, inside, Oscar Piastri in the McLaren. Excuse me. Third top three start of the season for the rookie. No matter what happens in this race, McLaren as a team have authored a remarkable comeback after a pretty fruitless start to 2023. And they could wind up fourth in the constructors. P4, George Russell in the Mercedes, his best ever start in Abu Dhabi, tying his seven-time world champion teammate Lewis Hamilton for the intra-team qualifying contest at 11 each. Row three, inside, Lando Norris in the McLaren. Speaking about qualifying a teammate, Norris was outrun by the other side of the garage for the first time ever here at Yas Marina. Next to him, Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri. Talk about ending the season on a high note. The Japanese third-year driver managed his best ever Grand Prix grid position, equaling his sixth place start in the Brazilian sprint race a few short weeks ago. Row four, inside, Fernando Alonso in the Aston Martin, his best starting position in Abu Dhabi since 2012, as Aston appears to have righted the ship after a long string of late summer blues in terms of performance. They're in the battle for fourth among constructors. P8, Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas, crashed in FP2 on Friday, but he also finished no worse than seventh in four straight races here in Abu Dhabi from 2014 to 2017. And that kind of scoring is critical to Haas as they hope to rise from last in the Constructors' Championship, as Chris mentioned. Row five, inside, Sergio Perez in the Red Bull lost third and second places in the last two GPs, but managed to lock down the runner-up position in the Drivers' Championship that the team was expecting of him. P10, Pierre Gasly in the Alpine starts in the top 10 at Yas Marina for only the second time in 7 tries. Row 6, P11, Lewis Hamilton for Mercedes failed to reach Q3 and a spot in the top 10 in 2 consecutive races for the first time since 2014. A 5-time winner here, at least he is assured of third in the driver standings. P12, Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, 9th in points, and being chased by Lance Stroll in the Aston. Ocon has missed Q3 for the last 4 consecutive races. P4, the aforementioned Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin. As luck would have it, the Canadian and Ocon will be racing each other all night for that all-important position in the Drivers' Championship. P14, Alex Albon in the Williams, whose points haul in 2023 thus far is the best for a Williams driver since 2017, hoping to help Williams clinch 7th in the Constructors' points and the bazillions in prize money that go with it. Row 8, P15, Danny Ricciardo for AlphaTauri. 5 years ago, the smiling Aussie finished 4th in this race in his final drive as Verstappen's Red Bull teammate. Remember that? 1 year ago, he was ninth here at his final drive for McLaren before being bought out of his contract. I'm sure he doesn't want to remember that. P16, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari. What's the Singapore winner with a masterful drive doing back here? The Spaniard crashed heavily in free practice 2, then blamed traffic in first round qualifying, though TV replays showed no obvious incidents. Row 9, P17, Kevin Magnussen in the second Haas. I hope you guys have seen the adorable video of his little baby daughter helping him put his gloves on. Cool.
It is.
He was eliminated in Q1 for the 12th time this season. Go get him, K-Mag.
Yeah, P18,
Valtteri. Yeah, right. Hey, well done. Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo start 18th. This will be the last race for Alfa Romeo with the Sauber team, who I noted are not going to pick up Audi branding for the new majority team owner until 2026, which will be Audi's official debut. Anyway, the Finn wraps up the final 4 races of the season with 2 top 10 appearances in qualifying and 2 Q1 eliminations. Figure that one out. Row 10, P19, Guan Yu Zhou, or Zhou Guan Yu, whichever you like, and the second Alfa Romeo, who's been much more consistent. 15 Q1 eliminations in 22 attempts for the Chinese driver. And P20, sadly, Logan Sargent in the Williams. Will this be the swan song for the first American in F1 since Alex Rossi nearly a decade ago? He gave it his best, but lost both of his push laps to track limits violations. So he will start at the very back of the field. And there's your grid.
Perfect.
Thank you, Mr. Varsha. We'll go out to Chris one last time. What do you got, Chris?
I was going to say, I didn't even interrupt Bob. I thought with the time we had and the fact that, let's end on a high note, that I wouldn't cut him off when he was in full flow. But I
know you wanted to.
It's just like an interesting tidbit. But I was just stood by Carlos Sainz's car because, as you say, long way back, saw Fred Vasseur come and give him a hug and really try and G him up before he goes out there. So keep an eye on Sainz because he's going to be looking to put in an attacking drive. And it's his final race with his current kind of helping team around him. So his performance coach, a guy called Rupert Manwaring, who I'm actually good friends with, but I did not find this out until I was on the grid and confirmed with him, is making a shock transfer to become Max Verstappen's performance coach next year. So Verstappen has nabbed Sainz's performance coach. So it's there's not much movement in the driver market, but there is on that level. Michael Italiano as well, who works with Yuki. It's his last race working with Yuki, and he's off to run a load of cricket teams. He's been headhunted for something like that. So while a lot of the drivers are staying the same, actually the right-hand person to them that quite often you see with them, really tight relationship they have, a lot of them are changing over the winter. So there'll be a few that I imagine you might hear team radio messages and thanks at the end of the race, but also they'll be keen to go out on a high with that sort of combination.
All right, Jonathan Green, we've got about 2.5 minutes left in the show. After Red Bull's 822 points, we've got some things to watch for today, don't we?
Yeah, we do. We've got to watch Russell and Leclerc fighting from P4 and P2 as they go head-to-head to decide exactly where that's going to pan out. You've got 2 guys on 200 points, and that is the 2 Spaniards, Alonso and Carlos Sainz. I'm looking for the Hail Mary from Hülkenberg. It can be done. Hülkenberg's got to find any which way to get those 4 points and beat the team ahead of them, which is Alfa Romeo.
Yeah, 4 to tie, actually.
4 to tie, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know how that would count back, but it may not work out that they.
Yeah, I don't know. That's true. Who would win if they tied on points? I mean, there is the tiebreakers, of course.
Is that on Haas and Alfa Romeo?
Yeah.
Asking? It will be Haas. They have a 7th place from Melbourne that Hülkenberg got in that chaotic race.
There you go.
Alfa Romeo's best result is 8th. So if they are tied on points, assuming it's not with somehow, well, it'd have to be Haas outscoring Alfa Romeo anyway today.
Yeah.
So yes,
Yeah.
tied on points means Haas will win that.
Well, Chris, by the way, I was asking that question rhetorically because I knew you knew the answer.
Yeah, actually, if we've got 2 seconds, I'd like, Chris, you mentioned Sainz. What is an aggressive strategy? We heard from Mario that hard-medium was the obvious, and medium-hard-hard could be the same race distance or time. What would you call an aggressive go?
I would call soft, hard aggressive.
Okay.
So he's got 2 sets of hards. I'd say start on the soft, make moves early on, and then once you've tried to get a few positions and you've negated, I don't know, from like 16th to maybe about 10th in that opening stint, then you do a 2-stop strategy with 2 stints on the hard if it's a good race tyre. Problem is, Ferrari aren't always great on the hard. It's hit and find out. Other option would be to run long on the hard from the start, but as we say, if they're not good on the hard from the start, they'd be in trouble. So I'd go soft.
All right, quick picks. We got 30 seconds. I'll start. I'm going to say Leclerc wins, followed by Piastri, followed by Verstappen. Jonathan?
Lando.
Okay, Bob?
I'll go with Verstappen, Leclerc, Russell.
Ooh.
And Chris?
Verstappen, Russell, Norris. And I can tell you Sainz is starting on the hard tyre, so don't listen to me.
Well, he didn't ask your opinion. I mean, that's what he should have done. So obviously his race is complete toast at this point.
All right, everybody.
Yeah,
Thanks for tuning in.
And 3 on hard.
Stick right here for the race, and then stick right here after the race for our post-race show. Thanks for tuning in.